What's up guys, welcome back to Destiny Updates. This is the Bungie Mail Sack Breakdown, a series where we go over all the most interesting questions and answers from Bungie's weekly mail sack. This week's isn't quite as interesting as last week's was, but there's definitely still some things worth pointing out, so let's get right into it. The first question comes in from Brains Over Bronze, which reads, "You were very explicit with saying that Destiny was not an MMO. Why?" Bungie replied, "We've put a lot of thought into what genre Destiny best fits into. At its core, we're building an action game, a Bungie FPS. As we play in a space we've always loved, we're intentionally and gleefully bending and blurring genre lines, blending concepts, constructs, and features you wouldn't traditionally fit into the FPS category." So basically they're confirming that Destiny is not an MMO, that it is an FPS, however it does bend the borders of the genre and doesn't seem to be your standard FPS either. So far it definitely seems like they're introducing MMORPG elements. And also he added on the bottom, "Of course we'll be a lot more explicit and specific about everything Destiny in the months to come." So of course, more news coming later, probably at the big conventions. Which actually I would like to remind you guys, GDC is coming up just a little later this month, so stay tuned for that. Of course I'll be keeping you guys up to date here on the channel. Now on to the next question. This one comes in from Don Shibs, who asks, "If you had to pick one reason why playing Destiny co-op will blow my mind, what would that be?" Now the replies here don't really give us any new info, they just further reinforce things we were already aware of. Like the first one here which says co-op mode? Oh, you mean the whole game. Or this one from Adam Williams which says co-op in Destiny isn't an afterthought. Much of the world is built from the ground up with a social idea that exploring the world with your friends will be more visceral. And the next question relates to this as well. It comes in from GT Striker, who asks, "How much will your friends matter in Destiny?" The answer is, in Destiny, everything that's fun to do is more fun to do with your friends. So that just further reinforces that Destiny is built from the ground up to be cooperative and more fun to play with your friends. However, in last week's mail sack, they pointed out very clearly that you don't have to play cooperatively. If you want to play solo, that works just fine. The next question from Kempo Laser reads, "You've told us a little bit about the Fallen over the last few weeks. Can you tell us anything about the Cabal?" Bungie replies, "Not today, but we're pretty excited to peel back all of the layers of information about each race of enemy combatants. Actually, we're more excited about allowing you to do the honors, but that's also a discussion for another day." So that's quite interesting. When it says we're more excited about allowing you to do the honors, does that mean there's going to be another community event where we have to get involved in order to get the information? I have no idea, we'll just have to wait and see. Now this next one is probably the one I'm most excited about for today. It comes from Hylabos, or something, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And he asks, "Are pikes fun to ride?" If you don't remember, the pike is that sort of light scout-looking vehicle that people are comparing to the Ghost. Bungie replies, "There are a few things as fun as carving sand on a stolen pike." So the reason I'm excited about this is it means you can steal. Now when he says stolen like that, I'm assuming he means stolen from another player, and not an AI, because that would be kind of boring. But I definitely think this means you can steal from other players, and that's going to be a really interesting mechanic if it's true. The next one comes from Steven, who asks, "What's your favorite sound in Destiny?" Now there are a couple of answers I'm going to point out. The first one comes from Reed, who says the ambient sounds of Venus. Now obviously that's not a big deal. I'm sure each planet has their own ambient sound effects, but it still seemed interesting. The next one comes from Nate, which says the shimmering explosion of the Warlock's Redacted. Now obviously Redacted is replacing whatever he said. Now since the Warlock is a sort of mage, magic style character, I'm assuming whatever it was some kind of magic ability, but obviously that's all we know. The last one here comes from Michael, who says, "If you kill a Vex unit correctly, they can make an amazingly satisfying noise. I could shoot them all day for that noise." Now if you don't remember, the Vex are robots, so obviously that has something to do with it. Now I also remember something from the last week's mail sack where someone said the Vex have one of the coolest deaths in the game, so I'm sure that ties together somehow. Also relating to sound is this question coming from Decom, who says, "Are the weapon sound effects heard in the PS4 trailer the same effects that will be in the final game?" Now the answer basically says that the sound effects are not done and they're still pumping them out. Now the next question comes from Gunny, who asks, "I'm curious about Destiny's backstory. During gameplay, will we learn how the last city came to be and what brought civilization to that point?" The answer is, our writers are laser focused on building stories worthy of exploration and discovery. Some of those discoveries will come in an instant, others will be more prolonged, intending to lead you down intricate and carefully laid paths that we hope will make our revelations all the more sweet. So they're definitely putting a lot of work and energy into the story, which is great. Now the last question comes from Tactical, and he asks, "What have been the largest struggles in the development of Destiny? Has there been any eureka moments in overcoming those struggles? Now the most interesting answer comes from Tyson Green, who says, I think the biggest struggles have occurred when we've explored across genre lines. Which lines will forever be secret, but they can be very polarizing. Sometimes an inspired idea can settle a design debate before it reaches Thunderdome. Now, what Thunderdome means, I'm not exactly sure. Now, when he says the biggest struggles have occurred when exploring across genre lines, I think he's referring to Destiny warping the genre. How it's an FPS, but it mixes all these other elements into it. Now, there's a couple more answers that still seem quite interesting, such as this one from Adam, which says, finding new ways to tell visual stories in the huge universe we're creating. And this one from Kevin, which says, knowing everything about everything, and creating a cohesive user interface for people who don't. Now, the user interface was brought up once before, saying how they want to make it easy to understand and use, and this just further reinforces that. And the last answer from John saying, figuring out how to extend the experience beyond the console and support it on the web and mobile. So that's just further reinforcement of the whole mobile app thing that was talked about before, how they want you to still be involved with Destiny even when you're not playing. So that's it for all the questions and answers I found interesting for this week. Now down on the bottom, DJ, who's the community manager at Bungie, he's the one who writes all of these, wrote, yes, that's a tease, and yes, I'm a jerk for teasing, but my job is to report the news, and the news is that we have a plan to share more with you in the coming months. Until then, we always have the sack. So just further confirmation that more news is coming soon. If you want to read the full thing, there's a link in the description below, you can go check it out for yourself. But that's it for this breakdown. I do this every week as soon as the mail sack is released, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest Destiny news. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.